Welcome back to Reusable Space Program. This is episode 13, and we have Scott doing a little science hop on Minmus. He's just burning his engines there and just coming in for another little landing hop. And he's going to be doing quite a bit of this, I think, today. We're basically trying to farm science. So let's get to it. So Minmus, Sean, Scott, God, names are going terrible today. I've started the episode and I don't know what I'm talking about. So Scott's actually got out of the capsule and he's just collecting science. He's collecting the surface science, doing all that. And then we have a look on the map here and we just try and identify another potential biome. So my aim here is to just go over this ridge, land in this sort of lake area, in an ideal world on slopes. It used to be really easy to get slopes. Anywhere around one of these was a slope, but not so easy anymore, it seems. But we get something, we get some science. We don't get out, I don't think, because it's not a different biome. We just check around, is there anything else? And we're going to go for a little hop sideways. Unfortunately, that took a bit of fuel and it's limited our max number of hops on this because I don't want to cut it too fine and have to rescue him, because rescuing him from that craft and then refueling it is a whole 6-episode thing if I have to do it. So he gets out, he takes some minty ice cream samples from the surface that he's going to love, because, you know, that's what he does. He loves the minty ice cream, and he's going to go for another hop now. And I'm looking and I'm thinking, right, I want to go maybe up north a bit. To the mountains, maybe. Can I get mountains? Can I get ridges? Can I get anything? What I can do is I can actually check science coming down. So I'm going to come here. Is this another biome? Am I going to get another biome's worth of science from this one? And you notice it. I mean, starting out, if you're landing, the easiest place to land are the flats on Minmus. Anywhere of those flats, perfect. And there is about, I think, 4 or 5 different biomes that are flats. Which is really handy, actually, if you're starting out and you just want to get it. So now I'm like, right, okay, one more jump and one more hop, and let's do something, you know, pretty, well, not extreme, but let's get something a bit different. So I'm going to go, I think, for mountains or hills or whatever it's called. I think it's mountains or Minmus. Sounds odd. So I'm coming down, and yeah, this is, I start to realize that I have got it in orbital mode, not in surface mode, which isn't so bad when you're on the flats, but on the side of a mountain, nightmare. So we change it, we come back down, and we have definitely used as much fuel as we're going to be willing to use now, which basically means that Scott, I'm going to have to change one of their names. Scott's mission on the surface is pretty much over, so we're going to just launch him up and try and put him into an orbit. And because he's taken a little hop northwards, he's actually going to be slightly out of the equatorial plane, but we can deal with that. As long as he's got enough fuel to get into orbit. Now this is sort of like Apollo in the fact that the little Apollo landing craft went up into orbit and then docked, but the difference is we have not left any of our craft down on the ground. And the other thing is, this craft we can refuel in orbit. So while the craft it's got with it that's going to dock with it, that Nacott's in, doesn't have the fuel to actually refuel it, we can leave it in orbit, and when we want to come back for some science, you know what, we can fill it up with fuel and we'll be sorted. It's not unused. We might also want to repurpose it for other planetary bodies, because, you know, some of the planets, the smaller ones, you know, this will work for. I'm sure it's got delta V enough for some of them, but we'll see. It might even be that we attach it to something else to augment its thrust for landings on other places, or it might become part of a space station or something like that. It will be reused though, and that's the important thing. So we retract our solar cell because we're actually going to get a docking on, and that solar panel, as we know, gets in the way of absolutely everything. So Nacott is now in the driving seat, and she's going to try and put herself into an interception orbit. And this is I didn't make this easy on myself because the actual orbits they're in are very similar. I should have actually backed off a bit with Nacott and gone for a standard Hoffman transfer, but I didn't. I let it lie in the odd approach that they had, and it wasn't the tidiest of meetings, shall we say, but it got the job done. It took a few cycles round, but there you can see in the distance we have the markers telling us that Scott Kerbin and his landing craft are approaching. So Nacott's just going to zero out that speed. She's going to try and just level it out and just try and bring the two craft so that they're going to be near each other. And that's pretty much what we're doing. The good thing about Minmus is there's very minimal delta V involved, so we're actually using very little fuel. We could mess around all day pretty much and do this. If this was the money, it would be a little bit more. Kerbin, even more. But the speeds that we're actually going at here are so tiny that it's not a massively difficult task. And if you want to practice docking, I would actually recommend go to Mun or go to Minmus and try docking there. It's actually something that's definitely worth trying, particularly if you have trouble around Kerbin. So there you go. We're just going to fly in there, firing that nuclear engine straight at Scott's face. Probably not the safest way to do it, but yeah, if you understand anything about real spaceflight, they would never do that. They would always they would try and not fire thrusters towards. And then I tried to do this lazy docking thing again, which was probably a bad idea, but yeah, I should actually teach. I should stop trying to be a cheeky person and doing this. And you can see I'm just wasting RCS fuel right now. I am aware that I have quite a lot of it, and I'm not too bothered. But yeah, I just messed around, and yeah, I'd made a decision at that point. Right, we'll do it properly. We'll go normal, anti-normal, and this is what I should have done straight away. So if you do something like this, sometimes it is worth just backing off and going, you know what, I've done it wrong. I've done it wrong. Let's do it properly. I like to think at this point Nacott was trying to be clever and get in there and dock as quickly as possible, but yeah, she wasn't that skilled. We know she likes to dock, but yeah, that wasn't brilliant. So anyway, we put it into normal docking position, and yeah, it doesn't take much. I actually didn't use the nav. I wasn't looking at the nav ball when I was docking there, and I really should have been, because it would have made that a much easier docking process. So there we go. So we get out, and we're going to grab some science. I think, yeah, Scott's got his science, and he's floating free, which must be absolutely terrifying for a scientist. And he puts it into his pod. And what we're actually going to do is leave that, as I said before, in orbit, and we're going to take Scott and Nacott back to Kerbin in their little transport craft. So they're gonna burn their way to Kerbin there. So or repulse. Is it burn if it's a nuclear engine, or do you repulse? Do you nuclearize? Do you react? Is it fusion their way to fusion it? I don't know. Heat their way. I'm not entirely sure. Burn is the right phrase. So anyway, we're not oxidizing. It's an interesting one. Anyway, so we're gonna fire our nuclear engine and take ourselves out of the sphere of influence of Minmus, get ourselves back into the sphere of influence of Kerbin, and we're going to just aim to come close. Now, we've got lots of fuel on this, so I'm not actually going to I'm not going to worry too much about trying to do anything clever, like burning through the atmosphere to lose a bit of energy. We're just going to use our fuel to do a circularization. We're going to imagine it's just a normal circularization around a planet. Burn some fuel, because this is our home body. We have got an awful lot of opportunity here to refuel at the moment. In fact, all of our fuel comes from Kerbin. We don't have fuel coming from anywhere else, so actually this is the best place to need to refuel. So we might as well, if we're going to send up a tanker to fill up 2 tanks, we might as well fill up the whole thing. We've got the ability now to send up quite large craft that are reusable. So as you see, I burned down a bit, get a circular-ish orbit, and then I realised my inclination is absolutely horrendous, and I should have done this inclination change a long time ago, but we do it now. The sooner you do an inclination change when you've got an elliptical orbit, the better. You really want it to be at the slowest speed you can do. So inclination changes at slowest speed possible is the best way to do it. And so I've excessively used a bit of fuel there, I think. So yeah, we'll cope with it. So our orbit isn't perfectly equatorial, but it's close enough, and it's going to allow us to rendezvous. So then we get into our periaps, and we just start burning, repulsing, nuclearizing in the backwards direction. Yeah, we're going in the in the retrograde direction to try and slow ourselves down a little bit. And we basically just want to circularize our orbit, and that is just so that we can then dock and we can refuel this craft, refit this craft, take any science off it, things like that, because this craft is never going to go back to Kerbin. This is our little runabout. Even no matter how far the program goes, it's going to stay like that. So we have another craft to launch Yeah, here it is. You saw it in the workshop there. It is Friendship 3. So you've seen Friendship 1 and Friendship 2. They did our first docking in orbit. That was Sean and Nacott. Well, now we're sending up Friendship 3, and this is completely automated. It does not have anybody on board. It's got a probe core in its belly, as it were. And our probe tech is okay now, so it's actually usable. We've got a communication system we put up in the last episode. So it's basically going to go up and get our science and Scott. It's going to get Scott as well, because, you know, that's important for us to do. And so it's going up, and yeah, it's gone into quite a high sort of orbital period type thing. And then we've got Nacott and Scott there, and they're basically going to do the rendezvous, I believe. We're gonna try it. We've got a lot of fuel there. It doesn't really matter which craft we do the rendezvous with. I'm sure you could min-max it and go the nuclear engine is the most efficient, so maybe it should do the rendezvous. But equally, the other one has fuel oxidizer, which you are not going to be able to put on the nuclear craft, so it was going to be wasted. So I'm sure the numbers, you probably work out that the nuclear craft is slightly more efficient at doing this, but then again, it is a bigger craft, so I don't know. Maybe Friendship 3 should have done it. Anyway, we basically set up our little rendezvous there, and yeah, Nacott's the pilot, so she's the one doing it. And then we come in, and again, this is one of those things where you can have a discussion with yourself. Should we have Nacott and the big craft do the docking, or should we let it be the sort of the dummy target and let the robotic craft do it? Now, interestingly, a lot of rendezvous and docking were done by humans for a long time. They weren't automated for quite a while, actually. I believe the Russians were the first to do an automated docking. So, you know, us having our probe-driven craft do the docking is we're ahead of the curve, shall we say. So, yeah, we've gone into the normal anti-normal position, and we're just gonna sort of use the robotic craft, and we're going to dock. And it is just a case of move in and don't rush it. We're coming from quite a distance away, and you can use, once you get sort of pointing near the target, you can start using the nav ball to do a lot of these burns and stuff. But first of all, you've got to get near the target. Ideally, you want to be, you know, within an arc of that docking port before you start using the nav ball. Otherwise, it will just get confusing. And see there, I'm way off, and as I come along, you'll actually see on the nav ball the marker for the target drifting up to the center. And what I actually want to do is I want me to be pointing towards the target, and I want my grade vector to be on it as well, and we dock, and it's easy peasy. That was literally, I didn't cut that. That is how quickly it just happened once you do that. So we'll try again, because fuel transfer issues, shall we say. I wanted to transfer fuel, and yeah, but I also wanted to line up, because I don't want our crew to basically have to fly around in space. I'm nervous about, you know, Scott falling off the craft and not getting back on, and then his jetpack doesn't work, and that's brilliant. So he's going to collect his science. In an ideal world, I'd actually put ladders on this so that you could actually crawl between them. I didn't, and now I can't. I'm not sure if you can put ladders on with Kerbal 1.11. If you can, that would be great, and I do need to upgrade this save at some point to that point, but it is not getting upgraded at the moment because I have not. And I think a couple of them, I don't think I have. I've got a couple of mods on, and I'm always nervous about upgrading in a save, shall we say. So this will probably stay on here until I'm really confident that it's going to be okay to upgrade it. So science is transferred. Scott is on the other craft, and it is just a case now of, you know, offloading any fuel and stuff that we need. So Nacott's now got some extra fuel on board, and Scott is going to he's going to return home, and this is the easy bit, you know. You've seen this a lot. He fires some engines, arms his parachutes, does a bit of firing of this, that, and the other, comes in through the atmosphere. And this craft has done this before. This is our friendship craft. It is the recovery craft. It's a very easy little thing to do. I was planning at this point to get Nacott to actually change her inclination to go and get Sean. And then I thought, why am I doing that? Because that will just mean that Nacott, and we got science there. We got 2,000 science, which is beautiful. That's going to be so useful. Over 2,000 science. Now it's time to get Sean back, I think. He is on a high inclination, so we've launched when our launch pad was underneath his orbit, not his craft, his orbital plane, and we're just trying to match planes from launch because it'll save us some delta V. But this craft's got plenty of delta V to do this with. So we're just going to match our planes, do a little, alignment of planes at our ascending or descending node. There you go. And this is a brilliant example of us just doing some docking and some rendezvousing. We've done 3 of these. This is the third one in this episode, and the crew are getting quite good at them. As long as they don't and I don't become lazy and try and just point and fire, as long as we sort of take it stepwise, we're getting quite good at this. And this is something that's I'm gonna have to improve on, because building a reusable space program requires a lot of docking, because we have to transfer fuel, we have to move things around. In the long term, yeah, we're gonna have to start getting fuel up into orbit from Kerbin, or ideally from somewhere else that isn't a horrible gravity well, so either Minmus or Mun. It's probably going to be Mun. But anyway, you see me docking, and nice and easy. We transfer Sean over, and yeah, I look at, once I've transferred some fuel to that craft, can I circularize and or change its inclination? But yeah, don't need to. So we've left it with a bit of excess fuel, and then we're going to send Sean home, because he's done his job. He's done a little journey for us. So yeah, I think we're probably going to have to look at other planetary bodies for our source of fuel, because the amount we can take up at the moment, yes, we can send up some really big craft actually and reuse them, but it's not fun, is it? I think we're going to go mining, but it's whether it's going to be Minmus or the Mun. Minmus would be the easier to get fuel from, but the Mun is probably the easiest to use the fuel from, because you can get into planes of other planets more easily, planes of Kerbin more easily. It's not got the inclination difficulty. So as Sean comes through the atmosphere, he's going to be reunited. We get a nice view of a river there. I don't actually remember there being a river on Kerbin. That's nice. Next time, we're going to have to go land on the Mun, I think, and figure out what that's like. We've got Nacott in orbit, so I think it's a case of what can we reuse, and what are we going to have to send up to help up. So, until next time, have a great one.